Welcome to Soft Bites Podcast. Your life, your dentistry. We talk about ways to have more fun and meaning in one of the coolest and most rewarding professions in medicine. Conversations on how to bring awareness, create a healthy workplace, and provide emotional insights to make dentistry a fulfilling activity while making space for one's wonder, creativity, and freedom. Here are your hosts, Manuela and George Andre.
Hello, everyone. Welcome once again. This is episode number 5 of the Soft Bites podcast, and it's the first one of the new year of 2022.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year to everyone. Happy New Year to you,
Thank
Andre,
you.
and welcome. It's always a joy to be here with you. How are you?
I'm fine, and we are today. You are recording in Portugal, which is we are closer now. We are not thousands of kilometers away. So,
Yes.
first of all, let me wish you a wonderful 2022. Going to be an awesome year, and I'm really positive about next year in many
me
aspects.
too. Me too. Thank you, and the same to you. And one of the many joys of this new year, it's going to be us working together.
Yes.
We are already doing this, but we are going to do it in March in the course, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to do, because this is nice and we have lots of fun, and I'm looking forward to do in-person things, I'm looking forward to really look in the eyes and to have that human contact, and so that's one of the things that I'm hoping for this new year to bring. The again the possibility of being together and teach in a more personal way,
and in a very nice place, which helps a lot.
Yeah. And like you just said, I'm here in Portugal. We are recording, and I'm here in Portugal. The other times that I've been in Belgium, and it's wonderful weather. 16 degrees in December, so it's
but that's because
heaven.
You're in the south. That's because you're in the south. In the north, it's not the same thing. We are. It's a little bit stormy. It's windy here, but it's part of the Christmas weather.
Yeah. Well, here it's really nice weather. It's spring weather, like I call it.
It's always spring weather in Alentejo.
True. Algarve even more, but in Alentejo we have wonderful weather. I cannot complain. Okay, so let's start our conversation today, and today we are going to talk again about communication. We already talked about communication in episode 2, and but we talked about a very specific part of communication. So how to have good communication in an interdisciplinary team, how to guarantee that we have good communication in a multidisciplinary team. And if you have not heard it, I advise you to go and listen, because in a very to place you in a very practical way, we talked that for you to be able to have good communication, a proactive communication, you should have first a system in place that will guarantee that you can all guide your actions with the same guidelines, and also regular team meetings. But in episode 2, we take this further. We talk about much with all of this in much more detail. But what I thought for today was for us to talk about the actual communication process itself. So when I propose to you for us to talk, the theme is reactive communication versus proactive communication. And so we are going to take it more to the field of self-awareness, to the field of mindfulness, which is my my expertise, to the field of emotional awareness, emotional intelligence. And because this is important in dentistry, because we have a responsibility in the way that we communicate, right? Not only with our team, with our colleagues, but also with our patients, of course. And in my mindfulness course for dentists, one of the sessions, it's only about communication. It's on the 6th week, and usually we discuss about how to be able to communicate in a proactive way, in a non-reactive way, in an assertive way, if you want to call it. And we talk also about active listening. And about active listening, we are going to talk more in detail, maybe in another episode, because it's very important. It's a very important skill to have in dentistry also. But today, we are going to talk about on the importance and how we can have a non-reactive communication in dentistry, right? So a proactive communication. And let me start by saying what is in everyone's mind, that other people can be a big source of stress in our everyday dentistry.
What do you mean, other people? You mean the staff and patients, right?
Everyone.
Yeah, life would be so much easier if you lived in a cave, right? And it's easy to meditate when you're alone, right?
And even when you are alone, you have other people on your
I was forgetting that. I was forgetting that.
But we in dentistry, in dentistry, we can take this to any kind of job, but specifically in dentistry, we all have times when we feel that others are controlling our dentistry, right? Others are making demands on our time. Others are being unusually difficult or even sometimes hostile. Others don't do what we expect them to do.
Can I add something? Others are stupid.
Yeah.
Well, at least in our opinion, they aren't. But in our head, I mean, it's easy. For me, it's very easy sometimes to think that.
Yeah. And we also have times where we feel that others don't care about us, others don't care about our work or our feelings. You know that I did a survey among dentists 2 years ago, where in one of the questions were for them to identify their main stress causes. And one of the causes that several dentists wrote were patients. It's like patients don't realize that dentists have feelings too.
I completely understand that. Yeah, they think that we are robots sometimes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm sure that, I can think of specific people. I'm sure you can too, and the ones that are listening also. Specific people, staff, colleagues, patients that cause us stress, right? And that we would prefer to avoid. But we cannot, because we work with them and we have obligations with them. And in fact, most of those people that cause us stress may be our patients, right? So the ones that we serve. To some colleagues, they are their main source of stress. So when we talk about communication, and when we look at what communication is, for me, when people communicate, there's always an exchange of perspective. There's this exchange of perspective that takes place, and if you face communication like this, there's this can lead to new ways of seeing things, and even to new ways of relationships. And for me, that's what's beautiful about communication, right? Because even when you are feeling angry or threatened, or when you are feeling that the other person is stupid, we have the potential to improve that relationship, right? If we bring the awareness into the domain of the communication itself. So and even the word communication, it suggests a flow of energy through a common bond, and it implies this union, this sharing, right? So to communicate is to it's to unite. It's to have like a meeting of minds.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first thing that I would like to bring awareness to. To have a good communication does not necessarily means agreement, and this is very important.
Yes.
Right. It means that we see the situation as a whole, right, and we bring understanding. We bring understanding to the other person's view as well as our own, but we don't have to agree with the other person.
Yeah. Yes. My experience over the last, I would say, 2-3 months, the last months of this year, has been very challenging for a few reasons. I had staff that I had to let go. I had to hire 2 new assistants. All the process of reorganization, expanding, getting a new chair, hiring a dental hygienist. And what you just said, that it's true that you have to be actually good communication is about reaching a common ground without you necessarily agreeing in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true, but I have to say, like I told the last episode, this is something that I really have to work on a lot. I think that I am aware that I could be more tolerant in other people's opinion, professionally speaking. I could be also less reactive, for sure. And I think that experience brings you that. But I think that the thing that better works for me is to be able to, I think the best way for you to have a communication that is positive and that can bring both of the parties somewhere else, that can bring something positive to both of the parts, not necessarily what they initially want, is to be able to show and admit, to show that you have changed the idea due to something that the other part has said. Because I think that in every sort of communication, it's very, very rarely that you are 100% right in every item that is being discussed. So I think negotiation is very important. But I think that for me, not to open an aggressive energy, or not to open a reactive energy from the other part, it's very important that whenever I think about what the other part is telling me, either it's, for example, let me give you an example, negotiating a percentage that I was about to pay for my new hygienist. And basically, we reached the common ground. It was not what I initially suggested. And to be perfectly honest, I never thought that I would go as far as at the final percentage that we agreed. It was also not what she initially asked for. But there were some things that she told me that were very that were right. If I want to be completely neutral on the discussion, I have to be able to look at the situation and say, well, what she's saying is right, and it's true. for example, should a dental hygienist earn the same percentage as a doctor? That's a legitimate question. And in some cases, yes. I mean, there are valuable arguments both ways, right? I mean, as a dentist, well, I have higher responsibilities. I've studied more than you. And here there's a little bit of ego dropping in, right? Then there's the other thing, which is from the boss perspective, which is, I don't know if I should say in this everything publicly, but I think no one's listening, right? So it's okay. But it's very interesting because this happened last week. So factors to consider of why a dental hygienist should or should not earn the same percentage as a doctor. Well, the doctor has studied more, higher responsibility on the one hand. But on the other part, they can also say, well, it is true what you are saying, but I also spend a lot of money on my continuing education, number one. And also, the time that I need an assistant is much less than a doctor, which I wasn't expecting that. And also, which is also an argument that could be used, but it was not in the case, that the procedures that the doctor is doing are much more profitable in terms of absolute value than the procedures that the dental hygienist is doing. So that really made me think, especially when this new dental hygienist told me that, well, yes, but you will almost not need an assistant while I'm at work, except to clean the room and change everything. And it made me think, and she was right, and she was absolutely right. So for me, but there's also an important factor here, which is how am I going to tell my staff, the doctors, that I have a dental nurse, oral hygienist that is going to earn the same percentages now, right? So there needs to be a lot of, to be perfectly honest, here that no one is listening to us, I really have no idea how I'm going to talk to them about that. But
so you still didn't?
No, I haven't. I still haven't.
They can hear it.
Yeah, but it's. I think they will understand it. I think they will realize that things need to be reasonable, and if we have an oral hygienist that she's very she's willing to work with us. Even she had no obligation to work with any other practice whatsoever. I mean, she's willing with us because she understands that we are a team that she might fit. I mean, it's not only for the money. She's very well graduated. She can also do dental anesthesia, and I think it will be good for everybody. And also, I mean, things are reversible. I mean, if things don't work out, I mean, we can always go back. But I think it's important to reach a common ground. And this conversation that I had with this oral hygienist is a very nice example of how you. But I think it's very important in the middle of the communication. Whenever you believe that what the other person is saying is right, you have to. In order for you to influence the final outcome, you have to let them influence yourself. I mean, they have to realize that there's a person here that is willing to change something. Because if you are not willing to change, the other person is not willing to change as well. And this is very tricky, especially, for example, when you have that thing on your shoulders as well. Okay, so how am I going to tell the staff of doctors that they will have someone that took a course because the immediate reaction of the doctor here would be, okay, so he's going to pay the same percentage to someone that only studied 3 years as me that I studied 5 or 6 years. And it's, I think that it's of course there's an history behind, and people have, if I tell them to, they will trust, because this guy has done some cool things, so he probably knows what he's doing. But they also have to understand that is something that will help them and will help the whole team. I mean, if the team is growing, we need to do some adjustments, and no one is going to take money out of you. Everybody's working for the same common good. So, and this is the way that I will explain to them. But I never thought that I would have admit a dental hygienist, oral hygienist, to be earning the same percentage of doctors. And well, if people are emotionally intelligent when they are discussing with you, I think, we reached the common ground. We stayed in between. So I think that's a good example of my. I am proud of myself because I think I'm getting. I don't know if it is older or more wise.
wiser. No, it just described, an example of a proactive communication in comparison to a reactive communication. So when we are totally absorbed in our own feelings, in our own mind, right, in our own view, it's impossible to have a genuine communication. It's impossible to reach that middle ground that you just said. Right?
But sorry to interrupt you. I would like to also to comment on a very important detail, because if it was about me, I would probably accept a higher percentage of her. I mean, it's not about me, because I'm really not. Money is not the main goal for me. It's important, but it's not the main goal. My biggest issue is, how can I maintain the trust of the staff of doctors if they see someone that's earning the same percentage of them? Do you understand? Because if we did a survey in the people that are listening to us, I would say the amount of people that would agree that an oral hygienist would earn in the same practice the same percentage of a doctor, I would say that would be a very low number. I would say. So that was my.
But do you think that that might be the first reaction?
Yes.
But do you think that then they can go a little bit further and give this a chance?
Well,
do you understand?
Look. You have to also see that, okay, what are the other alternatives? I mean, I was extremely happy with this candidate for one very simple reason. It was let me tell you the story, and I hope she doesn't get mad at me by sharing this, but I want to share it anyway. So basically, I was looking for an oral hygienist, and there was an ex-girlfriend of a friend of mine that she was a dental oral hygienist. And I reached out to her, look, I need someone. I said, well, I don't do clinical work. I think she's working like in public health or something. Well, I'm going to ask someone. And she talked to this other oral hygienist, which she already ran her own practice. She was running her practice with her husband. And she said, look, okay, give me the name of the person that is looking for an hygienist. I'm not interested, but give me the name. And she told her about my name and says, well, wait, that's a different story. I am interested. So for someone to do that, especially when you have a practice, when you work with your husband in a practice, and to be able to go into that mental stretch of leaving your comfort zone and going to work with a guy that, I mean, of course that she knows my clinical work and stuff, but how risky is that? And how humbling is that for her? You know, I don't know if I would do the same. So for me, these sorts of attitudes, they are very important for me. I mean, because she's clearly not here about the money. I mean, that was not the main goal. She's here because she believes that we can offer her a place where she can be fulfilled. And this is, I mean, she's placing in our hands the expectations that maybe we have generated in our community. So for me, that stretch that she did and she has 2 kids, and et cetera, et cetera. That stretch is something that it's very important for me, and I need to value that, because it's very unlikely that someone else would do that. And on top of that, she has some amazing CV. She has some great technical capabilities. So I have to think to myself, I'm not going to find better, at least at this point in time, and in a reasonable amount of time. So, because I mean, you'll never find the perfect person. So if it was the perfect person, I would say, oh, she's getting out of the college. I'm going to mold him or her to the exact things that I want. But that's perfection. Perfection doesn't exist. So yes, the stretch that she did. And then when she asked, and then we talked, and when she asked me for the percentage, I said, look, this is too much. And I argued, look at the US, look at how the US, how they pay dental hygienists, look at the numbers, see this link, look at the percentage. You have to be realistic. This is not possible. And on top of that, it's very difficult for me to pay you the same percentage as a doctor. And well, we reached a common ground. So there's a lot of factors, some of them emotional for that. I don't know if I'm going to regret. Maybe we can start work and we can see that we are not a good fit in a couple of months, which is fine, because that's how life is. But I think you have to, in life, I think you have to give yourself the opportunity to work on this thing. I think you have. For example, today I hired a new assistant. And I was talking to her because I realized that her background was extremely, extremely, extremely hard. And it looks like, well, I think this girl is here because she needs to be here at this point in time in her life for me to try to help her, even if it's only for a couple of years. And I think in life, you have to give yourself the chances of being able to be a part of something that is more than logic. That is also... I don't know. You may call it whatever you want. I mean, if it's spiritual, if it is just energies, if it is just emotion, I don't know. But I think you also have to trust your gut and your willingness to work with similar energies. Let's say that. And I'm a lot into that. Sometimes I hire people. I don't know exactly why I do that. Sometimes I'm right. Sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes it takes me 15 years to understand that sometimes I think it's right for 15 years. I think it's amazing. And after 15 years, I realize it's not. But I cannot forget the good 15 years, right? Because, and so, yes, I think you have to, it's a pure negotiation. At the end of the day, you have to make the maths. You have to do the calculations. And I think that I will also suggest a podcast on that. Did you know I wrote a book a few years ago? It's called "It's All Emotion and Math, but Math is Critical." We're going to talk about that in the future podcast. Okay. You'll like that. But I think you have to be open to that, and you have to be open sometimes to fall and to shame yourself and to regret yourself. But again, just to finish. But when you have a team, you have to do them. You have to take calculated risk. You cannot put everything on the line. This is why emotion is important. It's all about math and emotion, but math is critical. I mean, you cannot do things that will jeopardize the financial, the financial stability of the many families that sometimes directly depend on your decision. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to be able to also explain your decisions to your team. That's important, that they feel that security. But what I really wanted us to also talk about, and you mentioned it already, is do you think that dentists are prepared to do that stretch? To get out of that closed mindset, because when we feel threatened by anyone who doesn't, anyone that doesn't see things the way that doesn't share our point of view, we feel threatened by that person, and then we relate with the people whose view of the world, right, is like our own. And what I see sometimes is many dentists acting on this, only on this duality.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then your encounters with people that don't share your point of views are stressful, of course. Right. And then that's what take to the reactive communication. Right. You feel personally threatened. Right. And then you draw these battle lines. And you have a kind of communication that is us against them.
Yeah.
And I noticed this in dentistry, right? Yes, I noticed this kind of communication in dentistry. Yeah. Because especially in dentistry, because dentistry is a job where you tend to identify yourself with, you take things personally. Yes. So dentists easily have a reactive communication because they feel personally threatened, And I noticed this when I talk to dentists, the us against them speech. So it's dentists against patients, or it's dentists against clinic owners,
Or it's dentists against, or it's clinic owners against dental assistants. Very common
so
one.
This is reactive communication in dentistry. Do you know this kind of communication that I'm talking about?
This is my life. This is my life, My life is how can I be happy? How can I be the happiest as possible with the success of my other colleagues? Because I give a lot of courses and stuff, and I have to be willing to see them succeed. Then I also manage a practice, which is difficult because many people are. Sometimes people are younger, sometimes people are older. But what I realize is the older that I get, the more tolerant I have to be with younger people, because I have to remember myself when I was younger. But yes, I completely relate to that. It's a lot us against them. And it's I wish there was a magical trick for that. I wish there was.
There is.
I wish there was. I wish there was a book that you read and you could understand and place that into practice. I wish, and what I think is that you have to be exposed to those to self-awareness and to place yourself in the other side of.
That's the magical trick.
Yeah, but
that's the magical trick.
But and also place yourself on the other person's feet. But but it's all these theories happy. All these theories is easy. But for example, even today, I just got out of the practice a few hours ago, and I was leaving the practice. I'm going to have the Christmas Eve with my family. Then I'm going to travel. And I was just picking up some stuff, and there were two things that were irritating me. I was alone at the practice, and I was like, well, how come there is not a place here in the disinfection room where they have bags, plastic bags or paper bags? Why? Because we need them because if I want to take some stuff to home, I need a bag. Why are they on the second floor that we have to? This is something that we use every day. And I was like, how can they don't realize that needs to be down here, not upstairs? And then also the mask, the FP2 masks. How can they don't understand that this needs to be here, downstairs, not there, upstairs? Because we need this every day. And I was like, well, I'm going to send an email right now to tell them that I want it. And I was thinking about that. Well, okay, if I send an email, I'm not going to, how do you say it, give an opinion on their capacity to have understood that logically in their own heads. Because it's very easy for me. I would say in the email, I could have said in the email, oh, why couldn't you just realize this is so logic? Why haven't you done this? You need to do this. But it's probably much more effective. Okay, yeah, you can write the email. and schedule it to be delivered next Monday. But on the email, just ask for that. Don't give opinions about their capacity to have understood that before, And these are very typical decisions in my day, because sometimes I can really go to the other side and say, look, how could you have not understood this? And sometimes it's even today. There was a patient that I don't know that. I think that the oral hygiene instructions, when they placed the braces, I don't think they were given very clear, because he had some doubts, and then he came to me and I was like, how come he has doubts regarding such a basic, like using a super floss or something like that? And how after 2 months of orthodontic treatment, after 2 appointments, couldn't he realize that? What has failed here? And I mean, and there are 2 ways of doing this. Look, this has not been done, and the fault is mine, because there's a fault in the system, and the brace has been bonded, and no oral hygiene, no specific oral hygiene instructions have been given, or if they have been given, I think that they talked about the interproximal brushes just for the braces, but they haven't talked about the super floss, that tip to using braces. So what I learned from books is that whenever that happens, it's your fault, it's management fault, because the system is not so well set that happens naturally within the system because of some checkpoints or whatever. But you can also say, well, you have to do this every time to the orthodontist. No, you are responsible for this every time. And if they fail, well, yes, at least they know that you are right, which is already a good thing, because that is written down and that was talked about. But even still, even the fact that you have told them once and write it down, if there is a mistake, that does not give you the right to classify their capacity to do things, because that becomes personal, right? So how come this?
Yeah.
But sometimes, yes, I do that, and sometimes it needs to be done. For example, if I say that if I realize that, well, the pictures are not being taken as we know, and we have a system for that, we know how it's done. They are not being done. This is 1, 2, or 3 times, and sometimes I just have to stop the train and say, look, this is it. This is too much. I want to have a meeting. We need to have a meeting. All the people involved at this day, 15 minutes on Zoom meeting. We have to do this because this is too much. We have talked about this. We have insisted about this, and this is way too much. Okay. And from now on, I'm going to ticket you because of this, right? But all this balance of what to do and of how you do it and the way that you talk to some other person, it's there's a lot of sensitivity. It's not easy, yes. Yeah. And especially if you are tired at the end of the day, it's very easy to jump to the other side and start to give opinions about their personal capacity to do things. And because that you can easily become toxic. You can easily become toxic. So it's
and you have to also to be secure enough in yourself to listen to what the other person has to say, right? Without constantly reacting or arguing or fighting it or resisting, right? Or trying to make yourself right, proving your point. So and that you have to be willing to listen to the other person, and you have to be secure of yourself.
I think a good thing is, well, guys, everybody, do you all agree? This is very important that we take good pictures. Do you all agree? Yes, we all agree. Okay, so what are we going to do for this not to happen? Okay, but do you all agree on this? Yes, we all agree on this. So let's do it, because this is for your own good. This is not for my own good. And yes, the ticketing them is important, and we'll probably talk about that in some other podcast. But I was just coming to mind with some other, some professions that toxicity is also seen as a part of the scene. Like, for example, chefs. you even have TV shows.
Right. Where they are very,
And it is true, it is a TV show, but reality is a chef life is, there's a lot of yelling and screaming and stuff like that. I mean, and if you don't get your act together, if you don't understand that's just professional things, you'll feel offended. And in dentistry, I think you have to be much more sensitive, because you want to make sure that what sometimes we forget is the other colleagues and the other assistants, they are as worried and as stressed from the job itself as we are.
Yeah.
And this is something we forget very often, right? We think, well, we pay them, they earn the percentage, or they earn their salary. They have to be machines, but they're not machines. They have good days, they have bad days. No. We have good days and we have bad days. And I don't think we'll ever be perfect. And I think that you will sound toxic once in a while. I think that you will be offended once in a while. I think that once in a while you'll get home without the feeling that you were listened to, or without the feeling that I should have said that, and I haven't said it at the right time, that I'm not going to be able to say it. But even in a place with a very, very good system, I think for me is, okay, you work on the system as much as possible. If possible, you get someone that works on the system for you to implement the system, you get the system right, and do regular meetings. And from then, just try to not be too emotionally negative with people when you are talking to them, which is difficult, but I think it's the best way, because if the system is good, I think 80% of the problems will go away. And you just have to deal with 20% of them, which will annoy you still. But you have to make things relative. You have to understand that, okay, I'm in a good position now. We are working very well. It's not perfect, but it's well enough and it's good enough, and I cannot expect perfection. Yeah, but I think the systems are the most important. And then just realize that sometimes you're not right every time.
Yeah, the system allows everyone to act and communicate on the same guidelines, and eliminates a big part of stress. And when you have this kind of reactive communication, is usually because you are on automatic pilot, right? You have no awareness of yourself, self-awareness, or of the situation. You usually don't have a system in place, so you have no awareness of a system also. Let me just say there are two main types. This is just very the general, no detail here, but there are two main types of reactive communication, of modes of reactive communication, and that usually happen when, again, in automatic pilot with no awareness or presence. And again, this is not black or white. Yeah. They're not the only two. There are the different colors and shades. And I'm talking in a very general way. So when we have this kind of reactive communication, it's because we feel threatened or triggered by something, and we are not aware, right? And then there's two modes that you can react. There's a passive mode, which is submissive, which usually costs your opinions, feelings, and self-love. So you cannot say no to everything because you think that people will think that you don't care about the job, or that you're not a good professional, etc. Or there's the hostile mode, right? The defensive and aggressive mode. And these are in the situation where the other person didn't even finish what they are saying, and you are already screaming, "No, I'm not going to do that. You have no respect for me." So usually these are the two the two modes of reactive communication. And again, there's a lot of shades between these two, but these are the main two. And again, this leads to a very closed mindset, So you cannot see from outside this, but it's your usual way of reacting. That's what you are used to. You react completely with no awareness in automatic pilot. And when we can expand, so when we can bring awareness, right, to the communication domain, and we are able to bring usually awareness, bring the pause, right, before we get in the reactive mode, and we are able to consider the other person point of view. We are able to keep in mind the system, right? That we are part of a system as a whole. Then new possibilities emerge, right? And just like all the possibilities that you were talking about, your oral hygienist, about, because you are able to bring that pause, right? You are able to say to yourself, okay, let's see what this can bring me. Let's see what the possibilities that are here, right? And you don't immediately jump to the reactive mode. And this is where the mindfulness practice can have an effect on your communication and in your relationships and your everyday dentistry. So, and this is the reason why in the mindfulness course, communication is only on week 6, right? So you already have to have some practice on self-awareness. You already have to identify when you are acting on automatic pilot. You already have to be able to bring presence. You already have to be able to have body awareness, because emotions happen in our body, right? If you don't have any body awareness, you're not aware of any of this, right? This is awareness. It changes everything. It changes this. You are able to recognize if your reactivity patterns, right? And I usually say the first step is not action, it's awareness, right? So and I can even give you I don't know if you ever done this exercise, but for the people the colleagues that are listening to us, there's this exercise that I suggest in my course, and this is a very simple thing, and it's a tip, is to keep a stressful communications calendar, like a diary, of stressful communications. And this is a very simple way, a very easy way for you to bring awareness to your reactive communication mode, to the way that you are communicating. So in the end of the day, remember a conversation that brought you stress. And it doesn't need to be a discussion, because, and this is very important, a stressful communication are not only discussions. A stressful communication is when there are emotions involved, is when you are worried about an emotional response, either from you or from the other person. So keep a calendar, for example, for a week. In the end of the day, remember a conversation that brought you stress, and write about these points. I'm going to give you the points. I hope I can remember every one of them. So first, describe the communication, with whom it was, what was it about. Second, how did the conversation came about? So what was the result of the conversation? The third, did you really get what you wanted from the person or from the situation? Fourth, what did the other person wanted with the conversation? 5, is the issue resolved or not? And then you write about how you feel now when you are writing about it. And if you do this exercise, for example, during a week, you will discover amazing things about yourself. You will see your signature reactive communication mode there. Yeah. And this is the first step for you to change your reactive communication into a non-reactive communication, into a proactive communication, or as I like to call it, to an effective communication. So the first step is the awareness, because then with this awareness, you will start to bring the pause, that magical pause when we choose not to react.
That space, right? That space that we can use.
Yeah, that's it. The space that brings you the freedom of choice. That's so important. And this is where the change starts. This is where the magic starts with communication, right? So the proactive communication is based on the assumption that you can be in touch with what you are actually feeling, right? It goes far beyond your ability to say no when you want to say no, right? It's the ability to know yourself and to read the situations, right? To be able to see that you are part of a system, and then to act accordingly, right? And so the first step in transforming your reactive communication in a proactive communication is this awareness, right? Is to practice, to know what you are actually feeling, and in other words, to practice mindfulness of your own emotions. This is emotional intelligence, and it's not easy. We are just talking, and seems like a simple thing, but it's not easy. And even those reactive modes that I just talked about, I mean, we have been conditioned to act this way. These are things that trigger us. And for example, when I started to have self-awareness in the way that I communicated, I saw myself in the passive mode. I was that kind of person that had extremely difficulties on saying no, but then my head was like, but you do this and you should not do this. And so I was in constant fight with myself, and nowadays it's not that I don't have it, I still have it, but at least I'm aware of it and I can pause and I can express myself more and accordingly to what I'm feeling. So my speech and my action nowadays are more coordinated. But it's not easy. Just because we are talking here in such a light way, it's not easy, and it requires training. It requires practice. Like I said in the mindfulness course, for example, we only talk about it on week 6 because you already have to have self-awareness. You already have to have this training on how to know when you are acting in automatic pilot, to be able to disconnect that automatic pilot, to bring presence to your actions, because otherwise what you do, you will keep on reacting, right? And that will be seen also in your communication, with that reactive communication. So the most and the one of the crucial things to remember, and it goes according to what you just already said also, is to remember that you are part of a system, and that's very important for the clinic to have a system in place that makes your life much easier, right? It's not you against them. You are part of a system. Yeah. It's very important. And then with self-awareness, you are able to expand your field of awareness, your own awareness, right? To include the whole system, and to honor the other person's and the other person's point of view as well. Yeah. And that will give you the ability to listen to others, to really hear them, to see and comprehend, and speak according to what you are feeling, right? And that will also translate in your actions. So your actions will equal your speech, and that's why when people act in this way, they are usually seen as trustable, right? Other people trust them.
You mean because you are willing to change your opinion and you are willing to? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and also because what you say is really what you feel.
Oh, I understand.
And that will translate also into your actions, right? So your emotions equal your speech and equal your actions.
Yes.
Yeah. And
that can be felt by the other person.
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what I mean. Exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
So and this is what I believe that dentistry can gain, right, with the more proactive communication. But again, this is only possible if you bring the self-awareness, if you bring the emotional intelligence.
Yeah. And I understand now why you are saying it's only on the 6th week, because for dentists it's a big stretch. I mean, if you already have some notions of awareness, I mean, if you practice yoga, if you do meditation, if you read about that stuff, it's not something strange. But if you are completely new into that, it's very difficult to release yourself from the things that dentistry got you, because you become very much into dentistry, and your personal dialogue is always okay. It's the assistants are like that, patients are like that, and you get caught up by those stories. But I don't think it's for most dentists. I think it's a big stretch. I think it's a big stretch, and even for me, that I've been working on my own awareness. I would say since my early 20s, and it's an ongoing job, and the system helps a lot in many things. Let me just give you an example that I usually give, which is. I have a rule in my practice that is, whenever someone enters a room where the patient is, you always say, "Excuse me." You knock on the door and you say, "Excuse me." You don't knock and you wait for them to let you, but you just knock and you enter. Because for me, I think it's a sign of respect by the patient that is in a vulnerable position. Sometimes in a let's almost private, intimate position with the mouth open, and you have to he has to understand there's some care whenever someone enters in the room. But even if I call the assistant,
and respect also.
Of course, even if I hit the bell and there's like a sign that calls the assistant, whenever she comes, she knocks on the door, she says, "Excuse me." And who always says that? Number one, I do. I always say that. I always say that. I cannot ask for them to do the things that I do. Every doctor does that. Every nurse does that. Doctors are not gods that can get in the room where the patient is without saying "excuse me" as well. So everybody needs to do that. So there's this accountability. That's number one. And number two, I usually give this example of proactive versus reactive communication. So a reactive communication could be, okay, you don't have a system. A new dental nurse comes in, she gets trained by the other nurses, and they say, well, whenever you enter the room, you have to say this. And she says that once, twice, and there's one day that she forgot. And then there's another day that she forgot twice. And then all of a sudden, once you realize she's not doing that anymore. Mm-hmm. And you could look at this in two ways. First, it doesn't give a crap about patients, which is your normal reaction. Why? She's not respectful. Number two is, okay, she's not doing that. Maybe because there's not a system in place for her to do that. Maybe someone told her to do that, and that is not written on the manual. And on the manual, it's not written why that should be done. which is a completely different approach. Because on the first example, she says once, she doesn't ask for permission once and twice and 3 times in a given day, and you start to get anxious and nervous and angry about that. But then you realize, okay, that's not the right time to call her the attention. Okay, so okay, I'll talk to her tomorrow, and tomorrow you forget. So whenever that she does that, you may eventually explode and just chase her.
You end up saying it not
in a nice way, and chase her in front of a patient. You understand? So you are even being more disrespectful for the patient, because you are not treating her respectfully. So a completely different way would be, you have it written on the system. She understands that. She reads the manual before she comes to the practice. And when that happens, first of all, you don't confront her in front of a patient. And when you have to talk to her, you just say to her, look, you remember on section X on the manual, you have to say that because of this, okay? So if you have doubt, just go read the manual there, and that's it. And change the subject to something completely different. So you see the difference in drama that's possible to emerge from one situation to the other situation, because I like the word drama to describe the biggest enemy of any team, of any practice in dentistry. So drama is really, really dangerous, because if you confront an assistant in front of a patient, or in a way that is not nice, because you were accumulating all that, that will generate drama, and she will react. She will start to feel a little bit awkward in front of you. You know how these things are. In dentistry, small things can take exponential dimensions. So I think eliminating all the drama, not eliminating, but reducing the drama to as little as possible, I think it's very, very important. And being open about it, I think it's really, really important. So that example that I gave to you, okay, so if you have to call the person the attention, you say, look, you know that in the manual we say this, this, and this, but that's in a very neutral way, because that justifies, that completely justifies the call of attention. I don't know if you hear, there's some people singing like Christmas songs on the street.
It's a Christmas party.
Yes. And you have to, this is why it's important to have it written. Now, let's say that someone is doing something, and trust me, everybody that is listening, even if you have a system, someone will always come up with something inappropriate that you haven't thought of and you haven't written in the system. Someone. And when that happens, I also think that you should not react and say, well, I could have never thought about writing it down. I mean, this is so obvious. Are you a moron or something? Are you stupid? Which is very easy for us to say that. And
that's the aggressive mode.
Of course, but it's very easy as a leader to reach that, because for you things are simple, and it seems simple for you. But I think, and what I've learned always in management books and leading with people, which is the ideal, is, okay, where have I failed as a leader that never thought that someone would have done this? Where have I failed? So the system is not right. If there's someone that is not doing something that is inappropriate, it is because it's not written in the system. Because everything that is written in the system will lower the emotional triggering and the drama. Because you can always rely on what was written and separate your. So it's the system that's calling that is telling you that you shouldn't do that. It's not me. It's the system. So once you differentiate, you really can get rid of the potential drama that generates. And for me, I think that this is the most important lesson that I learned in managing people, is that it's almost always the system's fault, which is it's your fault.
There's a very interesting conversation with Jeff Weiner. I don't know if you know Jeff Weiner. He was the CEO of LinkedIn.
No.
He was the CEO of LinkedIn during many years, but now he's basically in a leadership and compassionate leadership as a speaker. And he has this very interesting conversation, just of a few minutes. I will put it on the show notes and I will send it to you for you to see. Because you what you just said to remind me what he said. He said that when something come up, you would, if you have something with the member of a team, you should never lose the opportunity of saying something, of being assertive and saying something. You cannot say like, she had a bad day or this or that. No, because you will be losing an opportunity to coach the person, to teach him better, and also to make things better. Because if you let it slide, those things will compile, and then when you reach a point that you blow up, you explode, like you said, and then it's not the best way. So never let the small things slide. He says it's not a blaming game. So, but you should be able to learn from those opportunities and not make those things bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think this is a wonderful way of us finishing. And also, I think that by our conversation, you said at a certain moment a few minutes ago that you think that for dentists it's a big stretch, to maybe some of these ideas, to put in practice. But I think that's with listening to this kind of conversations, they will maybe feel that this is something they can actually start thinking about.
The opinion that I have, and it's always, every opinion is biased, and it's only an opinion. It's not more important. It's just a point of view, and I base my opinion on my own observations. And I also base my opinion on, because I have every year, I have about 20 to 50 students that different every year over the last, I would say, 10 years, that give me feedback and show me their struggles. And look, yes, you are teaching us this, but we cannot apply. And most of the situations that cannot apply it, it's not by financial reasons. Most of the reason they cannot apply is because lack of emotional intelligence and lack of organization.
From them or from the person that they work with?
I think from both. Honestly, I think from both. More from the leaders, because an older person always has a higher responsibility. I would say so, because it's more experience. But just as leaders should also take in consideration that it's not all about the money. It's about having a drama-free place to work, an emotionally positive place to work, where people feel they can talk and they can communicate in a positive way. So leaders, yes, they should improve on that. But also students. I think they are always, not always, but a big part of them also sees the clinic owners as people that are only interested in money, and therefore they don't want to be explored, and that creates a reaction which is, okay, these guys are trying to explore, so I'm not going to give more than that they give to you. And I think that every evolution in a relationship starts because there's someone at a certain point in time that is willing to give more than what he receives, and the other more, and the other more, and the other more. Because if you don't have someone that is clearly wanting to give more than what he receives, right? I think things don't grow. There's a saying that success starts when you do the things beyond what you are paid for, beyond what you are paid in a fair way. Okay, so if you want things to be always fair, I don't think there is evolution. There's always someone that needs to be able to stretch themselves a little bit out of the comfort zone, whether it's a leader, whether it's an employee. I think that, and like I was telling in that discussion with the oral hygienist, I think that in that situation, I think that she made me realize that I had to change my opinion. But and I'm not saying that I'm perfect. That I think I am very good in very objective things. But when it comes to communicating and calling calling my staff to the mistakes they are doing, there's a lot that I need to improve on that. And also, like I told you, I think it was in the previous podcast, I only recently starting to do one-on-one coaching with them, one-on-one feedback on them, which is something that I didn't do, which also shows that I do lack some emotional communication capabilities. But it's uncomfortable, yes. But I think it's I think that you have to listen to see that as you cannot be. You have to be willing to look. You have to be willing to lose or look like a fool or getting out of the spotlight, and that is very difficult. And this is something that I always enjoy, that character that does the thing, but he doesn't give a crap about the credits of that. And I always found that extremely interesting for me. That notion of that hero that goes and solves things, but is completely he doesn't want to receive the credit, or he doesn't need to get the credit, and he can look like a fool. He doesn't mind looking like a fool, and he doesn't mind being the second place, and he doesn't mind to have someone else win. Because I think that people that give those first steps, that give space for other people, are actually the heroes here. You know, because if everybody was ultra confident and bossy, if everybody was a Steve Jobs, for example, because he was, right. I mean, we praise him, but the fact that he was not very easy to work with, and he was extremely aggressive with employees, and I don't know if today that would have been. I don't know if 20 years after his success with Apple, he could have done that, because I don't think that many people would tolerate that, and it's very very aggressive. So yeah, I think that these people that give credit to others are actually the heroes here, and I learned a lot with them, and I need to work a lot on that by myself, like listening. Okay, you are right on this. Okay, let's try it, and also be comfortable with the fact that you don't always need to have the credit. Or actually, you should not have the credit as a leader. You should have, which is. And I think this is a very interesting topic for another podcast, which is the mindset of a leader that he is the guy that eat last, let's say. So he's really a guy that's willing to give as much as possible, that doesn't need the credits, that is willing to change his opinion. Basically, is the guy that sacrifices itself, right? It's almost like it's the leader that works for the employees, not the other way around. And that is not easy to achieve. I mean, some people have that innate capacity. I don't have. I have to work that a lot. But I think this is one of the most, which is you may even call it vulnerability, but it's true. The capacity to be on the to get out of the spotlight and to listen to people and to manage that. I think it's one of the most undervalued traits of a leader. And in communication, that's the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah, and you only are able to have that if you are able to have a proactive communication. Like you said, you have to be able to listen to others, to try to see their point of view, So if you are just caught on a reactive communication, you cannot be an effective leader. You cannot practice the kind of leadership that you just talked about.
One thing that I realized is that, and we've talked about this before, which is there are different advices for different times in your career and in a company. I mean, if it's a small company, you have less financially freedom to mess around, to test things. You cannot be as tolerant in terms of especially financially. Yeah. Financially, you understand? You cannot do so much experiments. Okay, so let's do this. Because when you are opening a practice and you work by yourself and one assist, then you start to incorporate other colleagues. I mean, you have to be careful because, okay, so let's say you open a practice and there's this endodontist guy that works with you. I mean, he's the only one that you have, right? I mean, if you mess up, you'll be alone. It doesn't mean that once you have more staff that you can do whatever you want, of course. But if you have less staff, you are financially less free to test around and to be open to new ways of doing things. So you have to. So this is why I'm telling that throughout your life, and I speak for myself, I am much more open to new ideas, different from the ones that I think now that I was 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Why? Because now I have the financial capacity to test things, to be able to lose some money while doing some experiments. And because which is also important. So I think these advices, they need to be understood in the context of the growth phase that each one is individually, in the beginning or late in the career, because in the beginning of your career, you have to be willing to sacrifice more, that's it. And later on, you are less tolerant to that stuff. And if you are a practice owner, it's the same thing. You have more freedom to test things as you get more successful.
And also, let me just add to what you said, and going back to the beginning, good communication and proactive communication does not always mean that you have to be on agreement on something. Yes. You can have different opinions. Yes. And another thing is that proactive communication also does not mean that you cannot be assertive, because there are certain situations that you need to be assertive and that you need to take a position. Yes. And be very clear about that position and maintaining that position. And there are certain situations that you need to say, look, this is how it is.
Of course.
Don't do that again.
Of course.
Right? So you have to be assertive, and and the other person has also to take responsibility. This is not, when we talk about, and this is where sometimes I think that dentists sometimes they don't really get what I'm saying. It's because they think, she lives in this fairy tale world where everything middle ground, and you have to be in touch with your emotions and this and that. No, I mean, one thing doesn't cancel the other, right? There are certain situations that you have to be assertive. There are certain situations that you have to call other person's responsibility. There are other situations that you have to stand up for yourself.
You have to set boundaries. Right? You have to set clear boundaries.
Yeah, that's it. That's very, very important. Yeah. And you don't have to always agree to what the other person is saying, right? But of course, if you have self-awareness of the situation, of your emotions, of what's going, if you have the ability to bring the pause, if you have the ability to not react and to actually listen, then you will for sure, and I've seen this happening in dentistry. It's like a magic door in your brain opens, and because you open yourself to new possibilities, and you see, this is not all black and white. There are other ways of solving situations. This can really work. Let's see. And that's really special to watch, and because sometimes and again, you are so used to this kind of communication, us against them, that we already talked, that it's a very narrow vision of communication. It's and you spend your days just reacting to what others are saying, and you don't give yourself the possibility to actually see the situations in a different way. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. Everything that we talked should be taken in consideration from the stage of your life and of your practice, of course. But and we have to end because it's already long. But just give a chance and try to bring some awareness to your communications.
Yeah, and I think that if you pause to gain that space, you can never lose. If you pause before you send that email, you can never lose.
You win your that's where the power is. That's where your freedom of choice is. Otherwise, you don't have any freedom of choice during your day. You just react. You are trapped in automatic pilot. That pause will bring you your freedom. That's life-changing. For me, it was.
It is.
For me, it was.
You just have to realize that you need to have that mental capacity to stay. I'm not going to react now. If anything, I'm going to listen more, and maybe be the last to speak. Listen, and maybe be the last to speak, which is difficult for me. It is very difficult for me, but let me be the last to speak, because that when you pause, you can really reconsider all your boundaries. Is this something that I'm willing to give in, or is it something that I'm just gonna set boundaries? But you need that space. You need that time to think about.
You need that space, but again, you need to train it. Huh? Yes. You need to train that pause. You need to train that space. This is something you can learn. This is something you can train. It's something that can be developed. It's a skill. And it makes the difference between reactive communication and proactive communication.
Yes. Very well.
Okay, so thank you so much, André.
It's a pleasure to talk to you.
For the conversation. Thank you. And we will be back next week. Thank you, everyone, for listening to us.
Happy New Year, everyone.